Welcome to this episode of Coffee with Cornell. And today's conversation is very important, talking about learning how you learn. Join me. Now, many of us have the need, in fact, all of us have the need, to continue to learn. The whole idea of continuous learning is adult learning is something we ought to do for a lifetime, right? As well as when you think about it at your organization, you have to keep learning because things are going to keep changing. And by the way, our lifestyle is so impacted by learning now and new opportunities and new ideas that you have to continue learning. So just because people are making it easy with your cell phone and it's kind of connected to what you kind of knew before, think about the differences in generations as to how younger people and adults and older adults process information and start to learn things. So it's important to keep learning. But when we think about it, you go back to school, many of us had difficulties at different points in time in our educational careers because we weren't necessarily clear as to how we learned best. So, for example, I used to talk to my students and I'd say, hey, think about your favorite song. Okay, you know your favorite song, you know the melody, you know the lyrics, you know all that sort of good thing. Did you ever sit down and study your favorite song? Everybody said no, right? So you started thinking about it. What was it about your favorite song that helped you to remember it? I'm going to pause on that one for you. Think about what about your favorite song helped you to remember it. I'll come back to that in just a moment. So one of the things you might want to do is research how to learn. I used to tell my students the most important thing you could do is learn how you learn. Why? Because you're going to have to continue to learn. And as important as learning is, the easier it is, you don't have to be afraid of new things anymore, right? So you go and you look up Learn How to Learn, and you'll find there's all sorts of models out there and variations as to how to describe how each of us in our own way learn. There's 4 models, there's 8 models, and there's 10 models of different types, and there's even more in regards to describing how we all learn. But one of the most simple and straightforward is called VARK. That stands for visual in regards to learning when you see things, okay? It stands for A is for oral or audio. You have to hear things to understand or learn them. R stands for reading them, so you have to read it. And the K stands for kinesthetic or more physical activities. So you think about those things as to how you start to learn. And each of those activities also then assist you with what kind of jobs it's easiest for you to do based upon your learning style. Imagine that, right? So you can always strive and work your way through a given approach. But could you imagine someone who's an artist, who's a very visual type of person, then having to be someone doing math problems all the time? That's probably not the right combination. Correspondingly, someone who's an engineer or accountant who loves numbers and tabulations, those kind of things, typically doesn't do very well when it starts to come in, oh, let's talk about art and make colors and those kind of things. One of the examples I heard described a number of years ago, we know Michael Jordan, the great basketball player, right? One of his coaches described Michael Jordan as having a combined intelligence in order to be able to assess an aspect of basketball any way it was presented. Meaning, he could draw a diagram and would tell everybody what to do. Michael would know how to make that happen. He could be able to talk to them and describe it, and he'd be able to make it happen. He could write it up and write it down so you would have to read and understand what it is. He'd be able to make that happen. And then, of course, be able to walk out on the court, walk everybody through the drill. He'd be able to make that happen. Now, all of us aren't as fortunate as Michael in those regards, but think about the best way that you learn. The better you become at knowing that, 1, and 2, being able to apply that, wouldn't that make learning so much easier? And it becomes easier, then you're more likely to do it and get better at it. Let's just think about some of the benefits of that, of learning how you learn. Now, as I mentioned, we've all gone through some levels of education. Some classes were easier than others. Some instructors were better than others. But when you get down to it, each of us had to apply ourselves in our own way to try to make it happen. I know a lot of times you have little kids, you see the kids crying because of frustration, because at a given point in time, a given class is not suitable to the way in which they learn best. They're still trying to work their way through. As we become adults, then, we ought to have figured those things out so we can then start to get information presented to us in the best way that's most meaningful to us and what? Easiest for us to learn. Because if it's easy, guess what? We're going to do more of it, right? It also then allows us to learn more. And that's more learning is what we all have to do because this world of ours, the information curve, is just exponential and going off the charts. We need to learn more about our physical world, more about our emotional selves, your spiritual selves, your relationships. Think about all the things we need to learn more about. And learning how you learn is key and important. So, as you continue to evolve, recognize that learning how you learn is one of the most important things you can do. By the way, if you go online, there are a number of tests you could take in order to kind of give you some indication as what your learning style is. And then you can start to modify your world to then accept information using your approach that works best for you. So, the best thing we can do is to learn how you learn. Not to say that you're not intelligent, we all are. But the best thing we can do can help you to further blossom and grow. Not to say that you're not intelligent, we all are. Thank you for joining me, and we'll see you next time on Coffee with Cornell. And we'll see you next Cornell. Say that you're not intelligent, we all are. Learn how next time on Coffee with Cornell.